Giacottoli and every other name that they managed to force in there, Gianni Savio. Yes, and he's been picked up by CCC Sprandi. Youthful exuberance, I think, but also in the form of the big man, Shalamov, who's at the back. Of these guys, he is the best sprinter, and he's done well recently in the Comunidad Madrid. If they're dragging him into position and we start to just get out of sight of the chasers, not really much hope of it, but I guess on the approach to the bridge, or the exit to the bridge, there may be a disappearing point. Then, you know, a vanishing point, as it were. He might well just have something left, but the problem for these guys is that they're trying to reassemble themselves with only 13 to go. They've got to be careful they don't run out of road. It's holding at a minute as we approach the 10 marker.
Yeah, we know how much, if the bunch want to turn it on, we know how much they can eat into the lead. But it's interesting, that long, hard turn on the front up that drag of Bonnier's of Wanty Group, Goubert has actually lifted the lead. It's now gone up even more to 1 minute and 20 seconds. It's just on the cusp here, and this Carlton certainly will go down to the wire. I think they could stay away until about 4, 3, even 2 kilometres to go. Very exciting finale we've got.
It's going to be exciting, very. Finally, we're coming into town through some of the little industrial built-up areas on the approach to Sevilla. Beautiful city, by the way. And, yeah, top tapas. I can tell you from personal experience. Minute and 21, then, is the gap. It has that kick that was instilled by Jerome Bonnier. I think quietly Mroshek sort of engaged, but the man who's stalking all 4 of them up front is Shalanov, who went, as we mentioned, well in Madrid. It was absolutely outstanding push by him. Let's see if he manages to get a little bit more space. Minute and 23, they've got to take care. They could throw all this away in terms of stage win, and yet again, it could be a misfire for Bouhanni.
Well, this is very interesting. The lead is creeping up again. As I just started talking there, up to 1 minute and 28 seconds. It does happen, Carlton. Sometimes we look at the stages, you look at cycling sometimes can be formulaic, and generally we know how much power the bunch has, but given the composition of the teams, the smaller teams, of course, in the Grand Tour, when you have 9 riders in each team, there's a lot of firepower in relation to, you know, putting guys on the front to bring things back. Here, there's going to be a little bit more brinkmanship between the teams. Well, especially given how technical the finish is. If you want to take your marked sprinter to the finish, you're going to have to dedicate a lot of energy to the last couple of kilometres. Therefore, you're not necessarily going to have riders who are going to want to take it up from 15, 20 kilometres out. And that's why we're seeing this bit of brinkmanship at the moment. But if they're not careful, this breakaway could stay away. We saw it a couple of years ago in race like the Tour of California. Complete and utter miscalculation by the peloton, letting quite a modest group of riders, all continental riders, go to the finish. It does happen in cycling. Carlton, the gap now just under 1.5 minutes is actually going up.
It is going up. The rule of thumb is a minute for every 10 Ks means a possibility. And I'm just looking here at the little bit of chit-chat that's going on. There's Jerome Coppel with a little bit of a shimmy. I think the camera bike, actually, frankly, just almost getting himself into a bit of bother. That was for I Am Cycling. Jerome Coppel with thinking about Dave Tanner and Elmiger at the moment. It's Sylvain Chavanel as well, also very much involved. 11K to go, minute 26. And I'm starting to wonder whether the pack have actually misjudged this, and are starting to think maybe early season of holding themselves back. It's not where this entire race is going to be won. There's a lot of GC guys here who are probably thinking, well, you know what, I might as well keep something in the legs today. Maybe that gap is going to be a real one. The camera's panning here, trying to pick them up. Suddenly they've realised alarm bell's going off. It's Southeast that have picked up.
It's a little bit desperation stakes now. We've seen Team Sky just moving up at the front. Remember, they've got Ben Swift in their number. They didn't have a sprinter last week in Valencia. They certainly have one in the form of Ben Swift, riding very well at the moment, coming back from a couple of, well, an injury plague last year, although he did win a couple of races. But at the moment, 1 minute and 10, it is starting to tumble down now. You know the magic number, 10 seconds per kilometre is the general rule of thumb in relation to how much time the peloton can eat in to riders in front. But the 4 riders we have all sharing the pacemaking at the moment, extremely high speeds. But again, the last 2Ks, they've lost 20 seconds. So the bunch really has changed pace now. But I've also got some news just hot off the press from the Direct Energy team. Brian Coquard is not in the mix. They're going to be looking after Edwin Petit. Unfortunately, he crashed in training ahead of the start of this race. Big shame for the French team. Perhaps a little bit easier then for Nasser Bouhanni, but he's got some superb sprinters around him. A lot of pressure on the shoulders of that young man.
Yeah, and Shalanov, incidentally, I think I boosted him a bit much. I think he was top 5 in the Community Madrid, but had the beating of some very big names, and he is in the break. They've got a minute and 2. Close down is happening right now, and it's Team Sky that are on the guide, on the drive, and of course Nico Roche is our man who is pushing off the nose here. Wout Poels and Vasil Kirienka, some big names to conjure with, both who can go well when it comes to individual time trialling. Ben Swift, though, is their choice for today. What could Dani Bennati do for Tinkoff? We haven't mentioned Tosh van der Sande either for Lotto Soudal. We haven't seen much of the men in red. Greipel's team, of course, but Tosh with his chance today.
With Tosh van der Sande, I mean, not somebody you'd ordinarily think of as an out-and-out sprinter, but when he puts his mind to it, look at a couple of stages in the Vuelta last year when there was a reduced bunch of about 60 riders, got a couple of top 3s, top 5s, very fast finisher. Again, it is the sort of finish that he could do well in, but again, this is going to be the sort of finish where you need to have skill on the bike, you need to have a team around you to get your place right, and you also need guts, because this is very, very technical. You're going to need to you need to corner that penultimate corner like you're on rails to get into good position. But notice in the middle of the pack there, bit of a blurring between the CCC Sprandi Polkiewicz orange and the red of Cofidis, but keep an eye out for the Cofidis team. They have the most noted sprinter in this field, and the pressure is on his shoulders.
Pressure on everybody, especially as 55 seconds they're holding it out front. Just watch that man in the blue from Gazprom, Shalanov. He can kick, and if he needs to, he will do. What will be the effect on those around him? Somebody's going to possibly reach out and grab for this. 51 seconds, Sky doing most of the work out front, seem happy to do so for the time being. It is southeast Venezuela in the sort of slight fluoro that are coming to the fore. Interesting to see Rory Sutherland as well. He was the man guiding JJ Lobato of Movistar into position. The veteran Australian telling the camera bike where to go and out of the way. It was, I think, is what he was meaning. 8.3 kilometres to go, still 51 seconds. If that ticker's right, these guys have got a chance.
They certainly have. Just come under a minute. Remember, 30 seconds is when they'll bring the neutral service out. But look at the face of Barney's Avwanti Group Goubert, a real puncher, determined. Great win a couple of years ago in the Arctic race of Norway. He knows the feeling of winning, but he is one of those protagonists, always tries to get in the breakaways. But again, everybody in the move showing the pacemaking. It's now Mrozek moving through, 25 years of age from Poland. This is going to be very exciting. If they do come back, it's going to be around a kilometre to go, Mark Carlton.
I know, and we've told you how technical that is. If they can get to the 750 ahead, they might just have a chance. If they've got a 15-second gap at that point, despite their tired legs of having shared most of the duties up front, I think they're going to have some fun. Cofidis suddenly realised that their bridges are burning here, and they've decided to put a man on the nose and drag themselves and everybody else back into a decent pace. 45 seconds to go, 7.5 to go. Can the breakaway make it? On the front, that's Esteves, the youngster, 23 years of age, neo-pro in that sort of lime green of Euskaltel. There is Shalamov, sorry, that is Bunye, the Wanty Group Gobert, very effective young man, 28 years of age, not that young, but won the Driven Kurs to Overijse, beat Mercato and De Bie in that race recently, so can go quickly. Morashek in the Tangerine as well, 25 years of age, the young Pole. He is a neo-pro, took him a while to get established, but he's there now after spending some years with Androni and the boys. But Shalanov, for me, of Gazprom, has what it takes in a situation such as this. Here's the camera pan back from the helicopter, and they're going to take a right-hander and disappear from view from the chasers, who can't organise a chase at the moment.
They can't. I mean, we saw Team Sky dedicating a couple of troops to the front in the form of Nico Roche and Vasil Kirienka. They have taken a few seconds out, but they've still got a relatively healthy lead. This is, well, the riders in the breakaway will want to get off this main motorway, get into the small, narrower streets. Out of sight, out of mind is the cliche, but it has so much value indeed. Just going over the river, they'll be exposed to the wind a bit. Who's taking it up at the moment? Great bit of footage a minute ago when we saw the speed differential, and now Carlton, the breakaway just swung off that road.
Trek Sagafredo and Fabio Follin are doing a bit of chasing. Likewise, I am cycling, working for David Tanner, but particularly Martin Elmiger. And these guys are suddenly realising they've got a real pace about them. If they start cat and mousing and leaning on each other, it will just turn to dust. any chance that they've got. 32 seconds, 33, the clock just hovering as everyone else tries to get themselves in order to take that right-hand turn that these guys have already done. Unfortunately for them, this is a straight piece of highway. Here's that big turn I was telling you, the right-hander, and that's why the gap's gone out ever so slightly, heading for 35 seconds as they hoop themselves back in. It's a big long turn, this one, quite technical, and as a result it's had that sort of toothpaste squeeze moment about it. They are strung out, and those who are towards the fore who've planned this and timed this well, like Trek, like I am, they're going to be in a happier place than those who are trapped further behind. And amongst those, I've got to tell you, it's going to be Boani and Cofidis. They've got to reassemble themselves. They've got time to do it, but they're going to have to expend a lot of energy to make the catch with 5.5 to go.
They certainly are. Look at that long boulevard. 29 seconds is the lead. This will be the moment where the team car, or the neutral service cars, are pulled out of the gap, thus exposing the riders in front as the Folly. Will they be able to close this down? This is going to be nail-bitingly close. A flick of the elbow there from Bonniers. Have they got enough left?
Big question. Find the answer in a moment. 5.2 to go, 30 seconds it's edging out yet again as teams start to reassemble themselves. They've just had a real technical loop, like a slip road, a hooped one, which you often get in this part of the world as they guide you towards the toll booths. Somebody's going to pay a price today, and look at it, panic ensuing further behind. Southwest Venezuela working for Podato, but particularly Manuel Balletti, and the alarm bells are going off as well with Lotto Soudal. Tosh van der Sande is getting himself into place. What about BMC? I think they'll save themselves for another day. These guys are still there, 26 to go, 4.8. So in 1800 meters time, a crucial pinch point on a bridge, and then we've got a very technical approach beckoning, and maybe they've misjudged it behind. 23 seconds now.
The fact they've got that really technical section, they go over the bridge, turn right, then they've got a long stretch before the left, right, roundabout before the finish line. Well, because of the technical nature, that is going to fall in favour of the riders in front, but the gap has now tumbled. Cofidis now taken up at the front.
Nobody wants it. They're all talking to each other, trying to get themselves into some form. 21 seconds to go. Danny Bernardi and the Tinkoff boys are there. Cars out of the gap, 23 seconds, 4.3 to go. When we get to 3Ks to go, in fact, in about 400 meters time, they're going to make a turn to go over the Expo 92 Boulevard. That'll be a wide one, I imagine, to bring people to the Expo, but nonetheless, once they go over the bridge, that's where the turns, the twists and turns of this day, and the story will be told. Oh, a big look over the shoulder by Jerome Bonnier, and he's the engine room, or has been, of this push, and I think he's now starting to believe that the catch is to be made. Here's the turn that we're telling you about as they come to go over the river. 3.9 to go, 18 seconds is the gap now, and it finally looks like everybody has decided to work together and at least have a solid punch-up amongst the pack.
They've certainly left it very late indeed. The peloton certainly have their prey in sight, but for a few moments at the very least they'll be out of sight as they go round this roundabout. Bonnier's again on the front. I think the main protagonist, the main engine of this group. Is he going to try and go solo, or is he going to try and encourage the others to work with him?
Shalanov just bridges over to him, tries to get into the gap. Flick of the wrist from Bonnier, says, come on, we can possibly do this. Another big technical turn for the pack, and as you can see, it has that thinning out effect. Those who are quickest out of it get away quickest. The bridge is approaching right now, 400 meters, less than that to go. About 200 meters before they're onto it. Not such a pinch point, but it is as soon as they come off. And look, they will disappear. They will disappear. 14 seconds is what they've got with 3.2 to go. I think their heart, frankly, has been left on the road. It was a good push by them as we come by this rather strange-looking rusty tower. Apparently it's part of the design. Who today has got designs on victory? We're going to find out. Over they go, over the river. They're looking at each other, and this is where
left-hand side will be the Cathedral of Sevilla, and then just after the 1 kilometre to go flag, they'll have that half left right, then the roundabout, and then the finish. 6 seconds, 2.5 kilometres to go. BMC take it up.
Philippe Gilbert wants to be on the front. He wants a piece of the day. He's being guided into position. Alarm bells going off for Cofidis. They're working for Nasser Bouhanni, but they look a bit ragged at the moment. Not a team that functioning at its highest, especially with 4 lead-outs. Here's the gap. It's going to be the take, I'm afraid, with 2.2 to go. So heartbreak for those who are in the break. It's always a difficult thing for riders to be out there as they come past the bull ring, where of course tragedy and drama have been rung large, and last roll of the dice goes from Jerome Bonnier. I think this is only for a combativity award, as the train of southeast Venezuela working for Manuel Balletti hove into view. Phil Gilles still rocking and rolling, and here come Cofidis. They've reassembled themselves at the very, very last. What can they produce for us? 1,800 metres to go. Now, little bit of a shimmy on the approach as we will take this big one, don't forget, in about a K's time, 7:50 out.
It's actually Tinkoff now taking it up out in the front with that very, very similar kit. Bit of a glance over the shoulder. Jay McCarthy was there. Look out for Danny Bonatti, the veteran Italian, still remarkably fast. But despite being well into his 30s, who's going to take the first corner to the left? BMC also in the mix, 1.4 to go.
It is Tinkoff with Danny Bonatti. Rafa Micah also helping out on duties here. And guess what? It had to be Movistar, and it had to be Valverde, winner of this race in 2012. 13 and 14, and as we said, Van Leiberger, the top sport bladder, and don't be surprised if you see those boys pop up. He's only 23, but he's on massive form at the moment, going well in the Étoile Bessèges. Here's your big turn, and Top Sport knew all about it. They've guided everybody through it for the time being in around 200 metres, less than that now's time. They're going to take a big right-hander, and then it's that approach to the line. It's much more technical than maybe some of the sprint teams had hoped. And where are all the red of Cofidis, you ask yourself? There's the big right-hander, and still Lerberg, superb push by them, and here come I Am Cycling as well. Martin Elminger, Dave Tanner, what have they got? They're starting to look for a little bit of view. They can't find any for the time being. Big roundabout on the approach, and then they'll open up almost a touch of wheels, and it was Van der Leeuwenberg who got himself into a bit of bother. Finally they revealed to us, and it's eyeballs out for the line, and big absences here. Supe, Bouhanni trying to wrestle through, can't do it! Oh, wow!
Danny Bonatti of Tinkoff Saxo, the veteran Italian, looks like he took it on the line. Great ride by Top Sport Flandern.
Unbelievable. Well, we didn't get the long view of the arrival, I'm afraid, for you, but Danny Bonatti had every view that he needed. Out of the roundabout, the double switch. What an absolutely destructive day this was for Nasser Bouhanni. Big shakes of the head for plenty as well. No runoff to play with, and we've got, unfortunately, some tumblers as well. That's not good to see. I think that's Tashome from Stradi, unfortunately, who's taken a bit of a hit onto the deck. Yeah, not much room to play with out there, and in fact, Nazare as well, also involved in that collision just at the very end. Not much runoff. Lots of people wanted to take photographs, but the biggest picture, the biggest smile of all, Danny Bonatti from Tinkoff. Boy, oh boy, they got it wrong. They got it very wrong out there. Goodness me, there we are, just a touch of wheels. Too much compression at the end and not enough space to play with. I think space was something that Cofidis wanted more of, and frankly, more pace as well. Tinkoff, the daddies on the day, Danny Bonatti on the line. What happened to Bouhanni and the big, big pitch with Bozic, Laporte, Lemoine? I saw Soup in there, but no Bouhanni again.
It didn't look as if Bouhanni was there. Here's the slow motion replay. Great riding by Tinkoff Saxo. It looks like it was actually, I think it was Lobato in third on the right-hand side. It is indeed Lobato. It looks like Tinkoff Saxo, by virtue of their wonderful positioning, actually got Manuel Boaro up there in the mix. Couple in the top 4. Here it is again.
Big man, I think that is Van Lerberg, the youngster.